Last month, the Toronto Police Department released its annual report on hate crimes for the past year. Disappointingly, hate crimes increased by roughly 50% in 2020. And I was sad to see this. Life was difficult enough this last year. I wish we weren't adding to the pain needlessly, and I was sad to see that similarly to previous year's reports, crimes against Jews were the most common. 34% of the city's hate crimes were perpetrated against the Jewish community. I was sad also to see that crimes targeting the black community more than tripled, and I was sad to see that assaults on members of the Chinese community also increased greatly. But what saddened me the most was not in the report itself, but the discussion of it. On social media sites like Facebook and Twitter, I saw Jews posting about the report almost as if it was a badge of honor. Fellow Jews commenting as if we had somehow won the contest for the most hated group in Toronto. And I understand where many of them were coming from. Oftentimes, anti-Semitism is downplayed in conversations about prejudice and hate. There are those who want to pretend that Jews are simply part of the white majority, forgetting that in the lifetime of many of our congregation, there were clubs that would not allow Jews to join, companies that would not employ them, and even businesses that would refuse to serve people simply because they were Jewish. I understand how frustrating it is as a Jew to hear from others that we don't face persecution, that anti-Semitism isn't something that really happens anymore. And I understand how difficult it is when people negate the lived experience of so many fellow Jews. Even many of the articles from major news publications about this report focused on the increase in attacks on other groups and downplayed or skipped over those committed against Jews. This all upsets me too. But what I was really upset to see was so many fellow Jews posting about our position as the most hated group, as if it was a victory to point to. See, people really do hate us. I admit I understand the impulse. Yet in doing so, we aren't helping the problem, we exacerbate it. Negating the experience of other minority groups doesn't fix the issue of others negating our own experience of hatred. I hear among some an idea expressed, which equates to that we would be better off living only amongst other Jews. And I want to tell you that I don't think this is true. More importantly than what I think, I want you to know that our tradition doesn't think so either. In fact, Jewish life as we know it would not be possible without our non-Jewish brothers and sisters. In our parsha this week, we received the Mitzvah of Shemitah. Every 7 years is the sabbatical year, and it's forbidden to work the land in Israel. That means it's forbidden to plant and grow produce for an entire year in the entire land. In the modern era, as Jews began to return to the land of our ancestors in larger numbers, it really became a problem. How could they support and sustain themselves as a people if for an entire year they could not grow crops to eat or sell? That is where the idea of the heter mechira came in, a halakhic process of temporarily selling the land to a non-Jew so that food could be grown. It's an example of how despite the tremendous amount of pain we have endured from our non-Jewish neighbours over millennia, we also could not survive without them. Without those who, despite being of a different faith, have worked to help and support their Jewish neighbours. The idea is similar to what families do during Pesach. You sell your chametz to a non-Jewish neighbor. Passover is already expensive and cumbersome as it is. Could you imagine how difficult it would be if you had to destroy all of your chametz, empty your pantry and cupboards entirely, and rather than putting them away in a corner of your house for a week, never being able to get them back? It is possible because of non-Jews who are willing to support Jewish life in the practice of our own faith. Many of you know Danny. He's, I believe, the longest current employee of Beth Tikvah, and each year he buys the chametz of everybody who sells theirs through our shul. But more than imagining how difficult Passover would be if we didn't have someone like him to sell them to, imagine what Shabbat would be like without our non-Jewish staff members who prepared the building and our programs. Picture back in the day when we actually came to shul on Shabbat. For more minor problems, such as the sanctuary being too hot or cold, we wouldn't be able to adjust the temperature. If there's a problem with the audio system, we'd be unable to fix it. Kiddush would look very different without those who prepare it for us. And forget having a dinner for young families on a Friday night and then having the room cleaned and set up beautifully for a bar mitzvah celebration the next morning. Jewish life is made possible, not despite our interaction with the non-Jewish world, but because of it. Returning to the main topic, I understand the frustration fellow Jews feel when our lived experience of hatred is ignored and negated. But there is no winner in a contest of who is hated more. Jews, blacks, Asians, and other groups. There are a lot of groups that experience prejudice and hate. There are lots of groups that are so focused on their own experience that they lose focus on what others face. The solution is not to do the same, but to set an example for a better way. To set an example of what it means to stand with others who experience hate. Because we know what it's like to be hated. The answer is not to say that what others experience is less than what we do. To start quoting statistics to show that anti-Semitism is the most prevalent form of bigotry. The answer is to stand with others, to acknowledge their pain, to listen to their experience, and to share our own. It is only if we can listen to others that we can expect that they will listen to us. The answer isn't to fight and compete, it's to build relationships. Not to destroy them. The answer is that we must stand together with our non-Jewish brothers and sisters, because the only victory to be had is against the offenders and not our fellow victims. Shabbat Shalom.